As the Prime Minister of Canada, decades of politics weigh upon you, but are lifted when you finally decide to retire on a warm summer afternoon in 1948. At 73, stepping down from the role was a heavy choice, yet walking into the comfort and familiar embrace of Laurier House was just what you needed. The grand three-story Second Empire-style residence next to Parliament in Ottawa has been home for many years. As the sun sets on your career, you walk up to the second floor, where a portrait of your long-departed mother hangs. A lamp in front of her painting casts a warm glow, illuminating a small silver box cradling her wedding ring and a lock of her exquisite hair, a reminder of your unwavering devotion. This is the one place where your normally hidden true passion and obsession is seen. The occult, spiritualism, and the realm beyond the veil fascinate you, and very few know the truth. As you stand in front of the lamp, you watch the light dance as it flickers. Soon, others will learn that it is tended to by unseen hands and possesses a will of its own. For almost 30 years, those who have worked for you have kept its secrets, and those whispered rumors of your mother's presence will become legend once you pass. Then, those who work within the historic residence will make it public that you've joined your mother as guardian of Laurier House and will never leave it. You'll watch the evening staff's frightened faces as they head home for the night. As they walk away, they see the lamp glowing from the second-floor library. They had turned it off, but this is your home, and how dare they cast a shadow on your mother's portrait? They can't see you. No one can. And in their fear, you smile. I'm Nadine Bailey, and this is Haunted Canada. Join me as we delve into the dark and spiritual side of Canada's longest-serving Prime Minister. This is the story of Mackenzie King. William Lyon Mackenzie King was born on December 17, 1874, into a prominent family in Berlin, Ontario. Known as Mackenzie King, he inherited a legacy steeped in rebellion and leadership. With ancestral ties tracing back to the first mayor of Toronto and leader of the Canadian Upper Rebellion, King was destined for a future intertwined with politics and law. His academic pursuits led him to 5 degrees, including a law degree, master's degree, and a PhD from Harvard University. King served as Canada's 10th and longest-serving Prime Minister, off and on for over 22 years, from December 1921 until November 1949. His political influence and acumen was profound, as he maneuvered Canada through pivotal periods such as the Great Depression and World War II. King's tenure as Prime Minister was marked by transformative policies that endure to this day, from employment insurance, old age pension, and national housing initiatives which made mortgages more accessible to the working class. If you look down at the Canadian $50 bill, you will actually see him looking back at you. It's a reminder of his enduring impact on the nation. His seemingly steadfast, calm demeanor hid a different side to him that only came out behind closed doors. The mysterious leader had a deep involvement in the occult, seances, and an insatiable thirst for communicating with the dead. King was a lifelong bachelor, workaholic, and devoted politician who often found himself in the company of spiritualists, fortune-tellers, and mediums. Between 1901 and 1922, Mackenzie King experienced deep loss. His best friend, Henry Albert Harper, known as Bert, was only 27 years old when he drowned trying to save a woman who had fallen into the Ottawa River. Then he went on to grieve the loss of his older sister, younger brother, as well as his father and mother. King had a very close relationship with his mother, Isabel King, and was deeply affected when she died in 1917. He had been on the campaign trail and was unable to be with her in her final days, something that he would regret for the rest of his life. Isabel King was the daughter of William Lloyd Mackenzie, the leader of the failed 1837 Upper Canadian Rebellion. As a 7-year-old, she visited a fortune teller in Kingston, and her belief in them persisted until the 1890s. The death of his mother and her beliefs had a profound impact on King and could be the reason that he began to search for answers in the occult. Mackenzie King had a tough time getting through the loss of his mother, and to honor her, he commissioned a portrait to hang in the library of Laurier House, his residence in Ottawa. He kept a lamp on the table in front of it and kept a light on from the moment he woke up in the morning until he went to bed in the evening, a constant vigil for his dearly departed mother. There were also fresh flowers daily, and next to it was a silver box containing his mother's wedding ring and a lock of her beautiful hair. King was left all alone in Ottawa when his sister moved to Barrie, Ontario, and in his solace, he believed he wasn't ever truly alone because his family was looking over him. He didn't like to socialize, and as a bachelor, he preferred to stay at home drinking Ovaltine while working or spending time with his beloved dogs. He had 3 Irish terriers over the years, and he named them all Pat. He's been quoted as saying that his pets were, quote, a God-sent little angel in the guise of a dog, a dear little savior. King would read to his dogs and would be heartbroken when they would die, but believed that he would see them again. He would spend a great deal of time with his dogs deep in the heart of Gatineau Park, Quebec, in what is now known as Mackenzie King Estates. Nestled on 231 hectares of beautiful manicured grounds divided into 2 sections, Kingswood and Moorside. The grounds are decorated with beautiful gardens and lush trees, and inside the beautiful yellow-style bungalow, Mackenzie King would work during the day and at night commune with the dead. He also did this at Laurier House. That's because he felt his mother's company most often, which drove him to desperate lengths to try to bridge the gap between the living and the dead. The English-born clairvoyant Rachel Bleenley was the first medium he consulted on a regular basis, beginning in 1919 when he became the Liberal leader of the opposition. As the years went by, King became Prime Minister, and in 1925 he sought re-election. That's when a petite 48-year-old woman from Kingston arrived at Laurier House to see the Prime Minister. The visit was so memorable, King devoted 5 pages to her in his diary and recorded that, quote, it was a truly remarkable experience and was overwhelmed by what he heard. There were words of comfort about his mother and about the challenges that would confront him in the next election. Her declarations, he added, were, quote, amazingly true of the past, and if true as to the future, will be astonishing beyond words, because so bold and daring in what it prophesied. So imagine King's shock when he ended up losing his own seat and his party dropped to 99 MPs in the Commons. This situation gave rise to the infamous King-Byng constitutional crisis. As King contemplated his next move, he found a very remarkable letter in the mail. He had written to his fortune teller about a vivid dream and sent her excruciating detailing every aspect of the vision. He was on a deck of a ship, surrounded by his family members, who were all singing. The louder the music became, the darker the image became, and so it went. The letter King had in his hands was from clairvoyant Rachel Bleenley. She had written it the day before the election, and in it, she shared her own interpretation of the dream. She said that the ship represented Parliament, and said that although she had predicted a victory for the Liberals all along, she now saw his dreams were signs of a temporary setback. On her advice, King visited Governor General Byng and announced that he would not be resigning as Prime Minister and would remain in office. The opposition expressed public outrage and viewed it as a desperate attempt by King to cling to power, but secretly they were confident that King would eventually fail. They expected King's power grab would be so damaging to the Liberals' reputation that the Conservatives would then be swept into office by a majority. But they were wrong. They didn't have a fortune teller by their side. By September 14, 1926, the Liberals won the election, and once safely back in office and secure as Prime Minister, King continued to rely on his mysterious Kingston connection for political advice. Not many knew of his visits to Bleeny, and he only shared them with his future Minister of Labour and Minister of National Defence, Norman Rogers, MP for Kingston, with whom he had a sitting in 1931. During all of this, he continued to meet with mediums and took part in seances, and continued to meet with Rachel Bleeny for political advice. On February 8, 1930, she arrived in Ottawa and told King that June and September were, quote, important months for the probability of an election this year. She also repeated an earlier prediction that King was being married by the time he was 57, and that advice from former Prime Minister Wilfrid Laurier instructing him from years earlier was clearer than ever. Like a hen picking up scraps, she rattled on during the visit. She spoke of Conservative Party leader Richard Bennett and said that King would last as leader. With great speed, she then spoke of holding up till 1935 to get matters settled, living till 1982, and that he would always be busy. A week later, she wrote to King with more mystical encouragement that an election was imminent. In response, he informed his cabinet of his election decision during the third week of March, and the House was dissolved on the second last day of May. The election was set for July 28th. That is when King became disillusioned with his fortune teller. Rachel Bleeny's report from the spirit world was wrong. King lost the 1930 election to R.B. Bennett and his Tories. King never went back to her, and although he may have lost faith in the person, he never questioned the practice of speaking to the dead. Mackenzie King continued to seek counsel and guidance from spirits he believed held his political fate in their hands. Each seance brought him closer to them. He met Etta Wright as early as 1932, and by 1936, he was in touch with the London Spiritualist Alliance. His path was smoothened by Lady Aberdeen, an early patron of his career from the Rideau Hall days, and by the Duchess of Hamilton. Etta Wright was a famous medium. Originally from Detroit, Michigan, she was described as a direct voice medium who was well known and respected. She used a silver trumpet to connect with spirits. She placed it in the center of a table or floor, and the trumpet would move around all by itself. It would only stop in front of the person who was about to receive a message. Many famous people could attest to her abilities, including Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, author and creator of Sherlock Holmes. In 1911, Etta received a gold watch from Queen Victoria, given to her as the royal believed in her to be the most deserving medium of the time. Queen Victoria was also a spiritualist, looking to connect with the love of her life, her dearly departed husband, Albert. Etta was highly recommended, and during King's first visit, he made contact with his parents, siblings, best friend Bert Harper, and former Prime Minister Sir Wilfrid Laurier. He was hooked and booked another session with her 3 days later. By 1939, Canada and the rest of the world was at war. Although he had been a member of the London Spiritualist Society, he had kept clear of London mediums during his wartime visits. Instead, he had seances in Canada. And in 1941, he suffered another tragic loss when his beloved dog Pat became sick and near death. He was so deeply affected that he postponed a meeting of the Cabinet War Committee to stay at Kingsmere Estate with his dying dog. Upon the loss of Pat, King was so overtaken with grief that he sang out loud, "Safe in the arms of Jesus. God be with you until we meet again." He held a funeral ceremony for his beloved Irish terrier in his Gatineau property, and it is noted to be one of the strangest ceremonies as Pat was buried on the grounds. And afterwards, during seances, he believed to be talking to Pat and would go on to write in his diaries that, quote, "We shall all be together in the beyond, of that I am perfectly sure." As war and grief compounded, Mackenzie King found solace in connecting with the dead, and in August of 1942, while on a brief visit to Toronto, he attended a seance held by a rather frail-looking little person, a woman by the name of Alma Brash. She specialized in discerning spirit figures close to the sitter and spotted, quote, "a chief standing behind King's chair." He wrote in his diary later that evening that, quote, "She did not know that he was an Indian chief, but they called him chief. He had a fine face, white hair, looked very distinguished, said something about Laura or area," end quote. He suggested that it might be Wilfrid Laurier, to which she said, "Yes, he is so glad that you know him. He is pleased that you have done so well. He is helping you, watching you, and is very pleased." The spirit of Laurier was then followed by Florence Nightingale, who gave advice on King's health, and by Norman Rogers, his confidant in spiritualism and a cabinet minister who was killed in 1940. In his diary, King wrote that he worried about missing his train, but that he remained seated as, quote, "A little later, Queen Victoria and Anne Boleyn came in, but I do not recall what they said," end quote. 2 weeks later, Canadian troops would go into action at Dieppe. Imagine what Canadians would think if they had known that their wartime leader was seeking answers from the great beyond. Over the years, Mackenzie King continued to seek out well-known mediums like Helen Hughes, Geraldine Cummings, and Hester Dowden. Then, he would write about his experiences in great detail in his journals, but for the most part, he tried to keep his obsession with the spirits a secret. But details must have leaked, and this could be the reason why he became known as Weird Willie. After his retirement, the bachelor prime minister began to spend more time at his Kingsmere estate, where he eventually died on July 22, 1950, proving his former favorite fortune teller, Rachel Blaney, wrong. At the time of his death, he was only 75 years old, never reaching the 82 years his Kingston medium had promised, and he died still very single. By December 1951, Time magazine published an article detailing King's fascination with spiritualism. Most Canadians put it down to one more quirk from the private life of their veteran prime minister. But Blair Fraser, an editor of Maclean magazine, wanted to know more about King's well-kept secret, so he traveled to Britain where King's spiritualistic activities centered, to dig for more information. According to the spiritualist, King often attended 2 seances a week when he was in Britain, and although he kept clear during his wartime, the return to peace brought more relaxed opportunities for European travel and more frequent journeys into the other world, all of which he documented in his diaries, some of which he had kept since 1893 when he was an undergraduate student. Many believe that these diaries were the most important political documents in the 20th century, but when he died, he left very strict instructions for all of his diaries to be destroyed, except for those parts which he indicated that would be available for publication. However, Mackenzie King didn't specify which sections were to be kept. For almost 40 years, debates raged about what to publish. People knew about his political contributions, but had little knowledge of his paranormal side. So it was decided that it was all way too interesting to be destroyed, and most of his diaries were made public and are available online. There's no way to know for sure how Mackenzie King feels about all of us knowing his private thoughts, but if you're brave enough, you may want to ask him on your next visit to Laurier House. Originally built by a local jeweler in 1878, the house was purchased in 1897 by then Prime Minister Wilfrid Laurier and his wife Zoe. When Zoe passed away in 1921, she left Laurier House to Mackenzie King. When he inherited the house, it was in very bad disrepair, and he wrote, quote, "Confess it is a bare and bleak place, not at all to my liking in any particular way, and it will require a completely going over." The house was completely falling apart. It needed a new roof, new heating system, and new plumbing. Repairs were going to be very costly, and unfortunately, Mackenzie King didn't have any money, so political colleagues and local residents donated money along with furniture, dishes, and artwork. So much money was raised that the majority of it went into a trust to ensure that all future repairs could be done as needed. He remained in the residence until retirement, and upon his death, the Government of Canada considered making Laurier House the official residence of the Prime Minister of Canada. Prime Minister Louis St. Laurent opposed the idea, and instead, in 1951, 24 Sussex Drive became the official residence of the Prime Minister of Canada. Over the years, many famous people visited Laurier House, including King George VI, Sir Winston Churchill, Charles de Gaulle, Franklin Roosevelt, and Shirley Temple. Today, Laurier House is a historic site and museum and holds many oddities collected over the years by King, including antiques, his crystal ball, a prayer stool of Mary Queen of Scots, and his dog's ashes that are displayed in an urn. If the walls could talk, they would mention the many seances Mackenzie King held and share the secrets from table rapping sessions and spiritual mediums. King often looked into his crystal ball and used the Ouija board, which still resides inside the historic residence to this day. If he wanted to cross over to those long since dead, he would just climb the stairs to the 3rd floor and sit in the small closet, which is where he found the best connection. And if you're looking to join the former Prime Minister in a journey beyond the veil, you know a great place to start is in the 2nd floor library, where the portrait of King's mother is located. At the end of the evening shifts, staff make sure to turn off all the lights, including the lamp located in front of the portrait. When they exit the house and look up, they have noticed a light glowing from the 2nd floor library. They go back upstairs to check and are often shocked to find the lamp that they had just turned off now glowing back on. It's a warm light shining on the portrait. Many believe that it's Mackenzie King still paying tribute to his mother in the afterlife. And he's not the only Prime Minister haunting these halls. Wilfrid Laurier can often be seen sitting at his desk in the library as well. Staff know his presence by the cold spots he leaves behind. They can also feel him watching them as they go about their business within the historic home. While others also believe that Winston Churchill can be seen roaming throughout the home as well. How or why Britain's Prime Minister made the transatlantic trip to this home is unknown, but if you smell the faint scent of cigar, know that you might be in his presence. And it seems he's not the only one to travel distances as well as spectral ones. Mackenzie King is believed to split his time to this day between Laurier House and Kingsmere, where objects often disappear and then reappear in different locations. Should you visit the Quebec estate, know that if you see shadows out of the corner of your eye, but when you check to find no one there, you may have encountered Mackenzie King, who still wanders the place he loved so much in life. And it makes sense, as he has one foot in our world and one in his. In life, he spent so much time in the realm where the line between the living and the departed blurs. Mackenzie King was a firm believer in the mystic arts and dedicated many hours into finding connections with souls that crossed over. For decades, he walked the shadowy path of the occult in a relentless pursuit of bridging the gap between the worlds. Mackenzie's legend is not mainly that of a politician, but that of a man consumed by an insatiable desire to commune with the dead. Thank you for joining me on our haunted and paranormal journey into the stories of Mackenzie King. Haunted Canada is sponsored by the Edmonton Ghost Tours. I will link it in the show notes. Haunted Canada is written and produced by me, Nadine Bailey, with senior producer Delia Vasquez. Production and sound design is by Rob Johnson, with help from Rosalind Kufer. If you would like to support this podcast, please follow and share. And if you can give us a like and a 5-star written review, that is always appreciated. And a big thank you to everyone who has taken the time to email me with your suggestions for stories that I should cover on this podcast. I really appreciate it. Also, you can follow me on our different social media platforms, or if you have a ghost story, haunting, or true crime that you would like for us to cover on this podcast, please email me through the website hauntedcanada.com. Thank you from all of us at Haunted Canada and Curious Cast. Have a good night, everyone, and stay haunted.